Alrighty, welcome to episode number 6.
This is five. No, this is five.
Are you sure?
Yeah, this is
Yeah, this is
definitely
5.
five.
You're right. You're right. This is 5.
Episode five.
Welcome to episode 5. So you got your suit dry cleaned. What happened? Because this is a good intro, I guess.
So yes, I went to go get my suits dry cleaned, and just the lady at the dry cleaning place didn't speak very good English. And so I asked her, ¿hablas español? Like, do you speak Spanish? And she's like, yeah, I speak Spanish. I'm like, let's just speak in Spanish then. This is gonna be easier for you. It's gonna be easier for me because it's gonna be easier for you. So let's just do Spanish. So
I've been
yeah,
doing that a lot lately as I've been showing our homes in Winston for potential renters, where a lot of people will call me and you can tell that they speak Spanish. And I'll say the same thing. Habla español? And then we end up doing it in Spanish, right?
yeah. It's
Cool.
just easier.
It really is just easier. Fine.
Because then I don't have to guess what you're saying or what you mean. Because like my Spanish is probably 70% where it was 2 years ago, but I'm really trying to make an effort of getting it back to where it was.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's gonna be
same
good.
in the sense of my Spanish is definitely not where it needs to be or where it was. And it's been really helpful that I've been speaking it a lot more with people and there was a contractor that we used for Daniel Street, that home, that he's basically only speaks Spanish. So with him, I spoke a lot of Spanish. But like today, for example, I'm showing our house to this couple, and this lady was asking me a question, and I had no idea what she was saying. I was so confused. And so I kind of looked, I don't understand. I said, no entiendo, perdón. No sé lo que está tratando de decir. Like, I don't know what you're trying to say. And so then her husband like said it again, but like in a different way and like with some English mixed in. He's like, I can't remember the way he said it, but he's basically, do you check for papers? Do we need to have
Oh, they have to be legal.
'Cause I've never had this question before. I mean, like, I don't know. Let me find out if we check for papers. Let me see what the laws are in North Carolina, right? Like, if I
I don't
need,
think you have to.
I don't think I have to either. So I was like, I don't even know.
See,
But
like
that was my first time that had been asked is, do you check for papers?
that makes me think of I can't tell you how many times during the winter my mission where we'd be knocking doors. And so we'd be wearing like, black pants and like a white shirt and tie. And I had my jacket that I would wear is like a black down, like light down jacket, right? No hood. And I can't tell you how many people we would knock on their door and they're Spanish. They thought we were ICE, like there to deport them.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like I thought you were from immigration. Like,
yeah.
no, we're just missionaries in the Church of Jesus Christ, of the United States.
And from the other end of things, I don't know if you had a chance to talk to any people that had ever come to the country illegally.
Oh, most of the people that I taught on my mission were illegal
So
immigrants.
did you ever get the story of how they did it? Like how they
Oh
came
yeah,
up?
that was one of the first questions I asked because like those people like these, they all have
It
crazy
is
stories, just
insane.
nuts. So
Like when I
yeah,
was in Mexico, I would talk to people that I taught, like how they came over, and some came over legally, but the vast majority
yeah,
illegal.
it's just yeah,
And the vast majority, the crazy thing is, here's the thing that people need to realize is because mom and dad, especially mom, which is so ironic because
yeah.
she's an immigrant.
She's an immigrant.
So mom is an immigrant to the United States. She came when she was just a little baby. And her whole thing, and this is everyone's thing, is they need to come over legally, right?
Legally, right?
They're fine with immigration, but everyone needs to come over legally. The challenge is we need more immigration workers then to handle all of
Yeah,
the
the
application.
amount of people.
I'm
Yeah,
fine with that. I'm fine with us like blanketly saying we need to have everyone come over legally because I agree with that. Everyone should come over legally. But it's just
The way
unrealistic.
immigration currently works, it's
It
impossible.
is impossible.
It's like you
It's
cannot. Yeah.
impossible. And the vast majority of people are coming over to the United States to work to then send
Yep.
money back to their families, right?
Totally.
That's like what happens. And a lot of the people I knew came over illegally, worked for like 3 years,
And then went
saved
back.
up and went back and lived there, and then
Yeah.
like really great for
Yeah.
5 years, and they're like, okay, it's time to go back to the United
Time to
States,
go
work
back.
for another three
Yeah.
years, make all my money, then come back down here. And it's kind of crazy though. Like I talked to a lot of people that was their cycle of we're going to go to the United States, we're going to work for 3 to 5 years, right? If we're able to have our family come, awesome. If not, I'm going to come back and we'll live there, right?
Yeah.
Off of like this money we've been making.
In
Uh,
my in
but the
my
stories of
last
how they
area,
came
yeah.
over is just
Crazy.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy stories.
In my last area, there was a less active member, and he was a coyote. So he was one of the people that were paid, that was
Yeah,
paid to get people over the border. And so he was like well connected to a bunch of like different cartels too.
yeah,
And he's like, he had some crazy stories. The crazy story I actually heard was from these two members in Newark. They're from Ecuador. And so they get to Mexico, okay? And they get kidnapped by a drug cartel. And there's three of them. There's the two brothers, and there's a third person. Okay. And so they get captured. They're captured for like 2 weeks. All right. The first week, they lit the third guy, the drug cartel lit the third guy on fire, and like the guy died right in front of them. Because like they're being ransomed. Like they like got hold of their money, like got hold of their family. They're trying to get like ransom, right? That's all they want. They just want money. And the third guy could not get it. They literally lit him on fire. And like a few days later, the other like the brothers, their family was able to send money, and they were like let go. It's just like crazy. Like honestly, I've heard so many stories. I feel so bad for all the people that like that come here because it's like so hard, and they literally spend all their money just getting
everything.
here.
It's
Like
crazy. And not only that, just we watched these shows about like narcos and about just
yeah,
crime and corruption. And as bad as I feel the United States is with corruption, I would not want to live in almost any other Central and South American country as far as
oh,
corruption goes.
totally.
For example, like in Mexico, when I was there in my first area, so the area was right on the border of Guerrero and Michoacan, right?
Yeah.
And both of those states are like famous for,
Yeah, Michoacan especially is
yeah.
especially famous.
And there was like always cartel related incidents. And so there's a lot of things that would happen. Like 2 years before I got there, there's a bridge between the city that I was in and Michoacan, right? So that state,
Yeah.
there's a little bridge. 2 years before I got there, one of the cartels had chopped off heads and put them on the bridge, right? Like stay
Yeah.
out of our territory, like just like stuff like that. So when my first area, people wouldn't answer their phone. Like if you called them and they didn't have your number saved, they did not answer phone calls, right?
Yeah.
Because or if they did answer, they would say immediately, like, who is this? Because so often the thing was people call, hey, I've got your kid, I've got your aunt, I've got your uncle. They might not even have them, but people would still call and say that they have this family member and they need to pay. And if not, they're gonna die, right? And that
Yeah.
was like a real thing. So people just wouldn't answer. They didn't want to get those calls. They didn't want to have to deal with those things. And it's just kind of a totally different mindset.
Yep.
In my last area, this is actually really funny. This wasn't ever dangerous for me, but this is just the craziest story when it comes to corruption and just things. So this would have been we're in 2022, right? I got
This
back
probably was like 8
14.
years ago or 9 years ago.
Yes, this I think this was 2014, 2015, this summer. I had just gotten back. So the
Got it.
summer I had gotten back, so 6 months after I got back from my mission, there's this big story in Mexico about this busload of students that were protesting this mayoral campaign disappeared. Okay. So
Yeah.
the students disappeared. No one could find them. Well, obviously they were murdered, right? They were killed.
Yeah.
Well, the person that murdered them was an inactive member, or like the family member was an inactive member. I literally ate New Year's Eve dinner at their house, like with this
Yeah,
family, right? Because the husband was the mayor and the wife was running to be mayor. So they had
right.
been like the mayors for a while. And what it was, they weren't members, but their daughter was. So their daughter was an inactive member. And so they knew the missionaries, they knew a lot of us. So they invited us all over, like the whole zone for this New Year's dinner. We all went over there, right? And we it was so funny because they have a brother, she has a brother that he loved me. So I went to their house and taught like his family a couple times. Obviously they weren't interested, but they still loved us. And he like got me
Right.
like a cowboy hat. He's like, it was great. But this family literally murdered a busload of students, had to go on the run. They were on the run for like 4 months. The Mexican officials like couldn't find them, right? And then they finally were they were like Mexico's most wanted for about 2 months, I think. They finally were captured.
Right.
But just the fact that that would even happen, right?
Yeah. It's nuts.
In
It's
this city
crazy.
that some mayoral candidate's gonna murder a busload of students for protesting an event, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that doesn't just happen in Central and South America. That happens in
That happens all over the world. It's
so
just funny that like you were personally connected to
yeah,
the people that did it. See,
yeah,
it's crazy. The thing about like my heart really goes out to all immigrants because just the United States immigration system is terrible. Like because it's not what's dumb is every country has the same quota of people that are allowed in, right?
yeah.
And that is absurd. It's like there's not that many immigrants that come here from like Scandinavian countries, for example. And yeah, like it's so stupid. And
And
it costs way too much money. The lines are way too long. It should be way easier. It
instead of
should it
us,
should be way easier.
instead of us having 82,000 new IRS employees, let's have 82,000 new immigration employees
Yeah,
that can
totally. Just
process
process all the
immigrations
paperwork.
and
Yeah.
and get people that especially that are going to be contributing, right? Because if they come here legally, now they're paying taxes, now they're contributing more to like it's
You know what's
everything.
funny is I knew a lot of people that a lot of illegal immigrants, they would still pay
Yeah,
taxes.
they do.
Like they got like a credit card and everything. They're not gonna get deported, and that's fine. You
Yeah,
know, I'm totally against deportation actually generally as a principle, unless it's like a violent crime, like a heinous crime.
yeah.
But like it's just absurd that it's not easier for these people.
No, and it's
But
just kind of crazy, and I think we should have more of a merit based of a system too, where people that are coming over here, especially for jobs that most Americans don't want to do, right? Like there's
yeah,
so many jobs that people say, oh, they're gonna take your jobs. They're taking the jobs that no one here wants. That's the job
yeah,
they're taking. And that's great because it only that help they're happy for it. They're great. They're making way more than they would have been making in
yep,
whatever country they're coming from. They're happy to be here, and they're doing jobs that really help us. That really help society. And then
yeah,
a lot of immigrants and their generations and their descendants are the movers and shakers that end up changing the world, right? It's crazy
yep, totally.
being a teacher. I will say this as well, having taught, and I've taught in low income communities. So this is nothing to do with like race, but if it doesn't matter your race, if you are a first generation person, like your parents immigrated here, those students, especially if their parents like immigrated, they might not speak English, whatever country they're from. Those students were so much better as students and as learners than the
Yeah.
same level of income of kids that have been living here their whole life and their families are
Yeah, generationally
yeah,
they've been in
it's pretty
America.
crazy actually. And that I would say that is the same for a lot of African countries, a lot of South American, Central American countries. Immigrants from there, those kids, their parents and families are like, we sacrificed so much to get
We
here.
literally sacrificed everything. Like
You're gonna
make the
make the
most of
most
it.
of it and you're
Yeah.
gonna do well in school. And a lot of times there's not a good communication. Like you might not speak the language with them. There might be that hard thing. But if you let them know, hey, your kid's acting up, like they quickly make a change and
Yeah.
those kids do a lot better. And those kids, honestly, are some of the best students that I personally thought. There are amazing students, of people that aren't immigrants. But as a general
Right.
rule, that's kind of what, from my own experience, what I saw, which was
No, I agree with you. I would say that generally my experience has been children of first generation immigrants work way harder. Like as like a just a general rule I've observed is
yeah,
they'll work way harder than a not like a an average person that would match most of their other diet like demographics.
yeah. So it's just really, really interesting. Uh, but hey, we're both wearing our cutoff hoodies.
Dude, I've worn this I think every week.
Have you worn the same one every week?
I think I've worn the same one every week. You know, I watch a YouTube video actually. It's this guy. He's like this big YouTuber, I guess. He has like a ton of subscribers. And his wardrobe is literally like the same. He has like five of the exact same shirt and five of the exact same pants, and he will wear the same clothes every single day. And so comments is like it's like what I learned from wearing the same clothes every day for like 2 years. And comments were you did this because you're a cartoon character because the cartoon characters like always wear the same clothes. And then it's also a conversation we have like at work sometimes. Is I have a coworker, he literally has like seven black V-neck shirts and like seven gray jeans, and that's all he wears. He will wear the same clothes every day, and so I'll wear the same clothes almost every day too. None of us care. We know we don't pay attention at all to what anyone's wearing. We don't care if you look the exact same. But then it's funny where yeah, like just sometimes some offices and some situations are different where you just it's so important to some people.
I know. Well, it is really interesting, and that was a big movement a couple years ago, and it still kind of is. The whole idea of minimalizing your wardrobe, and
Wardrobe.
I can't remember the entrepreneur that was big on this, where like the amount of time you spend making a decision in the morning of what you wear is time wasted, right? So
Yeah,
basically, the whole wardrobe is the same, and you just don't even have to think about it. You just wear it, and I really love that idea. The challenge is there's so many different types of moments, right? The only type
yeah,
of wardrobe that really would work for that, for I feel like me, is a button down, like a white
yeah. White button down every
button
day.
down shirt that I can then throw a tie on when I need it or not. And it's a little more formal than I always want to be, right?
Yeah,
But maybe I don't know. The other thing that for me is this is goes into my self-consciousness. You ready? We're gonna get some deepness, but it's something I've thought a lot about. But I sweat so much, right? So I'll ruin shirts. I just sweat
yeah.
all,
Just go
and
through it.
so it's really hard because I want and I enjoy nice clothes and they fit better, and you feel better when you have a shirt or a outfit that you really enjoy, but you never want to wear it because you don't want to ruin it. So it's interesting because I have stuff that I really like that I don't wear because I'm like, I don't want to ruin this. And so I don't
Right.
know if that makes sense, but it's kind and I've
Yeah,
kind of
totally.
had to get over that and just get to the point where it's like, if I ruin it, I ruin it. I'm gonna wear it and then I'll get a new one. And then I end up not getting a new one. I just throw it away or whatever. I usually don't throw it away because I'm a hoarder and I don't throw anything away. But you know what I mean? It's just a weird dynamic.
Yeah,
Like I really want to get this or I want to wear this stuff, but I end up not wearing it because I don't want to ruin it.
right. I mean, for me, I also sweat a lot, but then like when I sweat so much, I'll just wash it, and it's really rare for me to get rid of clothes. But what I'll do is like every 6 months, I'll go through my closet,
Hmm.
and like I honestly have such a small clothes collection, and I can make it so much smaller. I go through and I always ask, I go, and if I haven't worn it within a year, I'll just get rid of it. It's gone. It's
That's
trash.
good. That's
And
smart.
like, so that's
I
how I keep my stuff decluttered.
see. I need to just do that, but my issue is I'll see it and be like, well, maybe I might wear it.
Yeah,
And then
see, but
I'm
the
so
truth
much
is,
like I'm
if
so
you
much
haven't worn
dad's
it, that's
I'm so
yeah,
much
like dad.
dad's son, right? And mom's son. Like, well, mom will just throw things away, but dad will.
Yeah,
And he's
mom will
on
just
it.
throw it away.
When have you ever? Or the funniest thing is when I lived in Utah, and especially when I lived near mom and dad. But if I ever wore something of dad's, and I might have not worn it in
For like 20
5 years,
years.
20 years,
No,
whatever it
20.
was, right? And there were a couple of shirts that he legit had that I wore that were t-shirts
Yeah,
that he had not worn in maybe 3 years. The only time I had ever seen him wear it was like at Lake Powell once, right? Or at the
right.
cabin one time. 7 years ago, right? So I
Right.
wear this shirt, and the first thing he says to me, "Why are you wearing my shirt, Dad? Because you never wear it." I gave you the shirt. It was really cool. It was retro. It was vintage. And oh, give me back my shirt. I wear it all the time, Dad. You haven't worn this since I've lived. I've never seen you wear this shirt. I found it in the closet. It was hidden underneath your socks. I don't know what you're talking about. You wear it. He's like, no, I love that shirt. Like, okay,
See,
yeah,
Dad's so funny too
there you
because
go.
it's funny how now, as he's gotten older, he actually wears shorts,
Yeah,
like in his pasty white legs. But then, out growing up, Dad never wore shorts. I
no.
can't think of one time ever, like from when I was a kid to like when I graduated high school. I can't think of one time besides Lake Powell where Dad would wear shorts. Can you think of one time?
There was maybe a couple times at like baseball games, but he mostly wore his jeans even to that. And think about this, he's wearing his jeans to these baseball games in Las Vegas summer heat.
Yeah, it's like 105 degrees outside,
Yeah.
110.
He like
He's like
never
dying.
wears shorts. Yeah, it's crazy. That's so funny. But yeah, so
Yeah.
actually that's something I've done recently is I went through my closet and I've taken out the stuff that I don't wear. Haven't thrown it away or donated it yet. I don't throw them
Dude,
away.
you
I
gotta
usually
get
donate it. It's just
you gotta
sitting
get
like
yeah.
in my room. So I do just need to
But go
uh
donate it.
yeah, so I need to just donate it. So
Yeah.
but okay, so that was an interesting take. I'm glad we talked about that. That was kind of really interesting. But I did want to talk about today Rings of Power because I caved in. I did it. I watched the first 2 episodes of Rings of Power. Last time we talked, I said I wasn't going to do that. I was going to wait till at least 4 episodes or the whole season came out. Obviously, that did not work. Um, so Rings of Power.
So real quick, because we spoiled Wheel of Time, Madison's listening to Wheel of Time. We're just gonna say there's full spoilers every time we talk about any subject. Full spoilers, yeah. Unless the one of us hasn't seen it or read it, there won't be. But everyone listening, just expect there will be spoilers.
Yeah, there's going to be spoilers to anything we talk about. Plus, I think you said this in the group text to Madison. Like the books have been out forever, right? Like
Yeah.
these are not new
Like
books. Uh, Now, Rings of Power is different than Wheel of Time, but like if we talk about these, yeah, we're gonna be spoiling it because we're gonna be talking about it intently. So
so when we talked about it last week, I said that you would probably like it.
yeah, and so you talked about it, and then I was still planning on not watching it. I talked to Jeff. Jeff calls me and he's like, I talked to Brady, and I was a little annoyed because he like doesn't
Of
want to
course, Jeff
admit
was
when he's
annoyed.
wrong.
All
And
right.
I was like, that's how Brady gets. Uh Charlotte's over in the background, like rolling her eyes, probably. But I'm the same way, Brady. It's all right. Uh, so I was like, I'm gonna watch it. Now, to be clear, the big thing that he said and that you and him talked about, and this is one of the big reasons why I decided to watch it, right? Was and you can tell your point, and you even talked about this last time, but from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's you didn't like how they changed instances or parts of the timeline you felt about the history of Middle Earth, right?
Yes, that is my biggest problem with the show.
Okay. So again, full spoilers about the first 2 episodes. We neither of us have watched episode 3, so this is just about the first 2 episodes. Full spoilers here. I don't know much about the history, but I think the show is really, really good. Uh, so much better than Wheel of Time when it comes to fantasy.
I agree.
It's
It
not
is
even
certainly
close.
better than World
And
Time.
I think that there is action, there is intrigue. I'm interested to see where the story's going. There are characters that we know from Lord of the Rings. It's like, oh, look how young they are. This is so cool. And there are new characters that we've never seen. There's a lot of stuff. Also, I think that they've set it up really interestingly where I'm excited to see where the show goes. And overall, I am motivated by each of the different characters' storylines, right? Where I'm excited to see where each of these characters' stories are going.
Right. Are gonna go. Right.
And that's, I think I haven't been like that in a show in a while, where I'm invested actually in these different characters and in these different characters. I'm really been excited about it because I have been stoked about how each of these characters. So, for example, Galadriel, her character and her story, super interesting, right? Now, this is one of the things that you did not like. So, this is something that I didn't have an issue with, but you didn't like. You didn't like when she's sailing off into the Undying Lands and she jumps out of the ship. And you're like, she would never do that. That would
It
never
doesn't
happen.
make it. I have no problem with her being a. To be clear, no problem with her being a warrior. That's totally fine. Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense that she would even be sent to the Undying Lands. Just it makes zero sense. Like
Why does
right
it not
now,
make sense?
because right in the Second Age, Middle Earth is supposed to be the land of the elves.
Okay.
Like that's what they're not going back right now. They're not supposed to go back. They're magical. They're supposed to make Middle Earth magical. That's like what they're supposed to do. So it
So that
doesn't
is their goal.
really,
So we're in the middle of the second age. The whole point of the
yeah,
second age is they are magical. They're living in the second age. They're excited. They
yeah. And
rule
so
Earth.
as as far as the Second Age goes, too, the Second Age ends when Sauron is defeated the first time.
Okay.
Okay, so the Second Age in total is like 3 or 4 thousand years.
Okay.
All right, and this it feels like they're setting it up to toward like this is supposed. I have no idea, right? Because they're just messing with the timeline a lot. So this should be what it feels like. What they're doing is they're setting this up to be closer to the end of the Second Age when Sauron makes the Rings of Power at like midway through the Second Age.
Yeah,
And
because at
so
that point, the nine kings of men, right, that take
so
on,
there's
by the
there
time that he is defeated, they're already the wraiths.
right.
Correct.
So that's right. So there are 20 rings of power. Just like I'm gonna give us a full history of
Okay.
what should be
Lord of
happening.
the Rings history. Here we go.
Yeah, so there are 20 rings of power. Celebrimbor makes 19 of them. And 19 of them
He makes
are
19 of them.
he makes 19
I
of the
thought
20 rings of power.
Sauron made the one.
Sauron made the One Ring. The
Okay.
One Ring to rule them all. That's the only one Sauron personally made.
Okay.
The first three rings that were made were the three Elvish rings, the
Okay.
three Elvish rings of power. And Sauron helped Celebrimbor make the three rings. Celebrimbor did not know it was Sauron.
Okay.
Okay, he's just like said, here's this dude, doesn't know he's Sauron. Tells him, hey, I'm going to tell you how to make these magical rings, and this is going to help preserve like the magic and stuff. And so Celebrimbor like follows what he's taught and makes these three rings. They're awesome, right? Makes the elves more powerful, more magical. And
And
then he makes
the elven rings are given to the king, two of them, right? And the
King like
third,
Gil-galad the king. He's given two, and the third one is given to Galadriel. So to be clear, the two most important people at this point when the first rings are made are Gil-galad and Galadriel. There's no more important elf besides Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor is super important, but those are definitely the three most important elves. So Gil-galad gets two of them. He gives one to Elrond, and he gives one to the Círdan the shipwright. He's this elvish guy who makes these ships. Okay, and so
that third one is the one Gandalf ends up getting later on during one
so
of.
the one given to the shipwright, like Gandalf gets that one from the shipwright. I'll get into that.
Yeah.
This is why it's important. Gandalf, that my biggest problem with the show is Gandalf is in it. It makes no sense for Gandalf to be in the show.
Here's the thing, though, and my argument to that, because I started reading up on some of the Lord of the Rings lore. Gandalf as Gandalf, right, doesn't appear until like 1,000 years into the third age.
Third Age, right? He appears on a ship with the other four wizards, and inserted in the
Are we
shipwright.
sure it's on a
Under,
ship, by the way?
I'm sure, I'm positive, because he
All right.
arrives and he meets Círdan the shipwright, and he sees Gandalf, and that's when he decides to give Gandalf his ring.
Okay. So my point though is as Gandalf, he he arrives in the third age. Okay. But like he is a spirit that helped create the earth and help they were told that they were gonna fight they were sent
Sauron.
they were gonna fight Sauron, right? And the
Yep,
big
that's
part's
that's
like
the only reason.
you
Yep,
can't though actually fight him. Like, don't use your power. Like there's a lot of like you're not allowed to like use your powers or whatever. So my
right.
point is, why can't we tweak it a little bit? And why could they not have arrived in the second age, but maybe not as Gandalf, right? Because
So
even in Lord of the Rings, when he reappears as the White Wizard, right? As Gandalf the White, they're like Gandalf, and he looks at him and is like, oh yeah, that is what they used to call me. Because that's not his actual
right,
spirit.
that's the name that people have given him,
Yep.
being in Middle Earth.
Yep,
Yes, that's
exactly.
that's right.
So like, why could he not? And again, I get that it's not in the Silmarillion, but like in the lore of this story that they're now creating, why could he not appear in the second age? Still as that same spirit, but not as necessarily Gandalf.
Because there he if he's in the second age in Middle Earth, he would have had to fight Sauron the first time. Like there's no excuse for any of the wizards to not fight against Sauron the first time in the second age, which he doesn't do. He does not do that. Like Elrond even says in like the Lord of the Rings movies and the books, he's like, I was there on Mount Doom when we beat Sauron. I was
Mhm.
there, and he sealed Doom to destroy the ring. Gandalf would have been there too.
Yeah.
Like, like it,
We
he,
don't know the direction this is gonna take still.
yeah, we do
Let's
not.
be
We do
clear.
not know.
So, but
It
that's
might
where
not
you're
be Gandalf.
yeah, and it might not
Yeah,
even
it
be it
might not
probably
be
is Gandalf. Honestly, it probably is.
because
Because
I
again,
what they're
Gandalf loves the
doing
little
is they're
people. Gandalf loves
exactly.
the little people, and like the fact he appeared to them, right? Like that's where he landed. It would add to his lore of
Yeah, it makes
why he's
sense.
so
That would
attached.
be Gandalf.
Yeah.
So that's to me, that's the biggest break in the lore. Is like it doesn't make sense for Gandalf to be there, and I don't know how he's gonna get the
Yeah.
third ring of power
That
at this
doesn't
point.
bother me though, just so you know.
Right.
That doesn't bother me.
And so I didn't think it would. That's why I said that I don't like. That's why I said I think you would like it.
Hmm.
For me, and then
So then the
obviously
three elven rings are made.
are made, they're given away. Celebrimbor makes 16 lesser rings. None of them are meant for elves or dwarves or men. They're all meant for elves. They're they're 16 lesser rings. They but what happens is Sauron kidnaps Celebrimbor and takes the 16 lesser rings. Okay.
Okay.
He tortures Celebrimbor because and then what happens is when Sauron forges the One Ring, all the elves realize what's happening. That if the three elves are wearing the three elvish rings, that Sauron will be able to control them. They stop wearing the rings. The three elves stop wearing their rings once Sauron starts using the One Ring. So Sauron now has these 16 lesser rings, gives seven of them to the dwarves to try and control the dwarves. The dwarves lose like all seven. Dwarves don't really care, like because the dwarves only really care about treasure.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they get richer. The rings give their kingdoms more power, but then it destroys their kingdoms because then dragons come because dragons also love treasure. And
Yeah.
so that's probably the reason why Smaug ends up at Erebor is because one of the rings of power, one of the seven dwarven rings was there. They got a massive treasure hoard. Smaug shows up. I love treasure. I'm gonna kill all the dwarves down. So like by that point though, all the dwarven rings of power are gone. Like they just
Yeah.
lose them. And then so that left nine left, and then Sauron gives nine to the to kings of men, and so they become the ring rings. Okay, and so something also that's important is that this happens at about like this all happens around 1600 in the second age around here 1600 1700 in the second age, and then Sauron is kind of semi defeated the first like he's not really defeated, but he gets thrown out of Middle Earth, and he goes to Numenor. All right, he's on Numenor for a long time, super long, like okay, and he starts acting as advisors to these kings. And to be clear, Numenor is an island west of Middle Earth. This is Aragon is a Numenorian by descent. Okay, a long time ago in the First Age, there was a man and a woman there's a human male and an elvish female, all right, who fall in love and they have kids. Okay. And those kids become the Numenorians where they're not immortal like the elves, but they live a super long time.
Yeah.
Like they'll live hundreds of years. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they find this kingdom on Numenor, and they're really upset that over time, like they're super prosperous, but over time, with Sauron kind of advising them, they become upset that humans die. They don't like that humans die. They want to live forever. And so in the world of Middle Earth, it's not a sphere, and you kind of see this
Flat Earth.
and the it's a flat earth, and there's this at the very far west there's a wall, and through the wall is the Undying Lands that's like only reserved for elves pretty much, right? So Sauron starts corrupting the Numenorians to try and build ships to go to the Undying Lands. That's what happens, okay? And so what ends up happening is the Numenorians do end up building ships. They try and go to the Undying Lands. The god of this universe gets really upset at them, okay? And he destroys Numenor. Like they don't get there. Most of them are destroyed. The island is destroyed, except for a few faithful Numenorians who sail to Middle Earth. So like Isildur is alive at this point. Isildur is alive. Isildur is important because he's the one who like doesn't destroy the One Ring in the
Yeah.
first in Fellowship of the Ring, right? So he's important. His father survives. There's like faithful Numenorians, and they find the kingdoms. They find the kingdom of Gondor and Arnor too. They find two kingdoms. Okay, and there, so they start becoming really powerful in Middle Earth. Numenor's gone. Sauron is also back on Middle Earth and starts building his army up in Mordor.
At this
Right?
point, the 9 rings have already been given to
They've
the.
already been given. They're a race. The race are like over 1,000 years old at this point
Got it.
because they're given to men like when they're first like they're given to men the first time before Sauron is like driven off to Numenor, pretty
Got it.
much. And so what's gonna happen though is I'm gonna assume that Numenor's gotta be in the show at this point. Like because of how everything's going, Numenor's gonna be in the show. And that's fine. But then it doesn't I just know that Isildur's somehow gonna be in the shows too, and it doesn't make any sense. This is like so much earlier than it should be.
Yeah, but
But we'll
again, they're
see.
like telling this story and it's
So
thousands of
fast.
years, but it doesn't feel fast yet. You know what I mean? Like it still doesn't feel fast. I feel like it's happening and it's just setting up, and I don't think it feels fast. I think they're telling this history of thousands of years, right? And however
Yeah.
many episodes they have to tell
Yeah.
it. And I think they're doing a great job.
I mean, I think the show is visually very impressive. I think the acting is good. I legitimately do.
Speaking of Jeff, he's just giving me a call, so I had to hang up on him.
No, just loop him in, invite him to the
Good. I'm gonna
meeting.
send him.
Let's
Yeah, that's a
let's
good
loop him
idea.
in. Oh, there's Jeff.
There's Jefferson. Jeff. So we were just talking about Rings of Power, and Brady was giving us a
A
brief
history lesson.
of
I'm sure he was.
Middle Earth, and then I was explaining how I still love the show. I don't have an issue if they combine basically all of the Second Age into this
Right.
show, which is thousands and thousands of years. Brady does. Brady thinks it's too fast, too much history for a single season.
Okay.
What are your
So
thoughts?
to be clear, Jeff, we have not seen episode 3 yet.
We haven't
Just so
seen
you know.
episode 3.
Okay, because I was like, what are you talking about with this? So
So don't spoil
We've
episode 3
only
for us.
we talked about episode 2 up to episode 2, how I've really enjoyed it. I'm really compelled by all of the different stories within the show. They're all compelling to me. They're all
Right.
exciting and fun in
Right.
unique ways. And I think that
Right.
they've done a really good job up through episode 2 as setting up this world of elves in control ruling, dwarves building and creating and their friction with the elves, but also like random friendships of men kind of being lesser, almost like subjugated to the elves.
Right.
How their relationship is, because a lot of those men followed Sauron during the first age.
Right.
And so
So to be clear, all that part of the show is totally great. I agree with you. That's
Okay.
like a good part of the show.
And so, well, that is the whole show so far. Though the whole show is the setup
Right.
of those three groups, and then the
Right.
fourth group being potentially Gandalf arriving with the little people,
Well,
right?
The
we don't know that
Hobbits.
we don't know that it's Gandalf. You're making assumptions.
I said possibly Gandalf arriving.
Possibly. Okay.
I have
Okay.
no issue if
Well,
it is Gandalf for
Let
me.
me tell you, the episode that you've not seen, like, really covers a lot of ground.
Does it?
Basically in everything that you just said. So, but I want to get into why Brady doesn't like it. I get that you agree with everything that he said. I want to know, like, what's your issues with it?
I mean, again, my issue.
And as you're answering this, to be clear, everyone that's watching, Brady rates it through episode 2 a 5.5 out of 10.
Or
Well,
6. Or
oh,
6.
Oh, wait a second. Now you've raised it because
That's
when
what.
I talked to you,
Watch last episode. I said 5.5 or 6. That's
no,
why I would rate the show.
the first
Watch
time
the last episode.
first time I talked to you, you told me on the phone a 5.
I did not.
then-
You are
then
full of it, Jeff. I did
No,
not
and then at
say
the
that.
end of the conversation, after I repeatedly ridiculed you for rating it a 5, you raised it to a 5.5 by the end of
Not
it.
even. I
Okay.
said on episode 4 of this show
Okay,
that
okay.
I would rate it a 5.5 or a 6. In
great.
fact, Tyler, when you're editing this, put in that clip of me saying I would give it a 5.5 or a 6.
Well, all that's saying to me is
Just splice that in here.
I have to
Okay.
start recording every phone conversation with you. All that this is telling me. But regardless, here's the
Okay,
thing.
so why
I
do you
don't
don't
care-
like it?
wait,
Brady?
wait. I don't care if you give it a 6. That's still too low.
All
Still
right.
too low.
6 is still a D. That's still only 60%.
No, that's still 60%.
I mean, for me, I consider 6 fine. A 7 is good.
Wow. Okay, so 7
Well,
is
wait,
good.
wait. I'm sorry.
Give us a 7. What is
Yeah,
this?
I want to hear a 7, and I want to hear an 8, and I want to hear a 9, and I want to hear a 10.
Okay, so a 7 would be The Good Place. What
Okay.
me and Charlotte are watching right
Okay,
now.
time out,
Okay.
real quick.
Okay.
I think one thing that we need to be clear of as well, Brady, because I do think that again, they're not apples to apples, right? The Good Place,
Yeah.
is this show. 'Cause
Yeah, these are completely different shows.
But like that show is really funny. It's witty. I get that you're giving a 7, but they're so different. Like I don't even think.
I think the only reason I think of The Good Place is because Charlotte and I are literally watching The Good Place right now.
Okay,
I'll
so
give like a
that's your
7.
7. What's your 8?
An 8 for me would be something like. I mean, I'm gonna break it up by seasons, okay? But like an 8 for me would be like season 4 of Game of Thrones. Or
Okay.
season 5 of Game of Thrones. Those
Okay,
would be
so-
like 8s.
What's your 9?
A 9 would be like season 1, like True Detective season 1 or Westworld season 1.
Okay. And what's your 10?
I don't know if I have a 10. I'd say overall probably Breaking Bad is a 10.
Okay. Okay. I don't, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. You're kind of, this is what I think. What I think is you're kind of taking what Tyler and I would rate between 85% and 100%, and you're stretching that all the way down to 60%.
Probably. I'm probably doing that.
Because everything that you said, I would 100% agree with you, but I would rate those all much higher than what you rated them. I mean,
Like for me,
a
I
5
think-
point, a 6 for me is like, I don't even know, a show that I can turn like Elementary, okay, which is what I just watched, okay, the Sherlock Holmes series that was on. Like, to me, that's a 6. It's something that I can turn on. It's mildly entertaining. It keeps my attention, but I don't get like fully immersed in it.
Yeah,
That's like an okay
I
show
agree
to
with
me.
that. I think a 6.
That's a 6.
I think a 6 for me is the same type of thing, where it's a show where I don't need to give it my full attention, and I'm still gonna
Right.
enjoy it, right? And
I'm giving the Rings of Power my full attention. So like,
Right. So for me, that would automatically be higher than a 6.
yeah, because if it's
I-
captivating my full attention and I don't
Yeah.
want to do anything else,
Yeah.
it's good enough where it's no longer a 6.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
see, I guess for me, to be clear, the only thing I really don't like about the show is its lore breaking for what is established history in Middle Earth.
Okay, well, wait a second.
That's it.
Established history in a fictional world.
And I understand that. I understand it's fictional. It's certainly better than Wheel of Time.
Right.
Okay. It's definitely way better than Wheel of Time.
But Brady, here's the thing, and we kind of talked about this the other day. My whole thing, I agree with you. It is not close to the books, okay? But they're also condensing thousands of years down to what, 30 episodes, 40 episodes, maybe?
Yeah, however many
seasons it's going to be. So, I mean, how do you expect them to be able to do that? Like,
no.
First of all, no one would watch the show.
You're right. No one would watch the show.
If they're going to say, like, okay, we're going to be true to the books, and there's going to be one piece of action that happens every 150 years, as it's books, no one would watch that show. They'd be like, dang, I'm on episode 8, and there's like one thing has happened since the beginning of the show.
And
we've only gone 7 years.
It's interesting you're saying that, because now I'm just remembering also Foundation. The show Foundation is similar.
Right.
Like, the show Foundation, honestly, the book, having read, I like the show probably overall better than the book, I would say, personally, right? Now, the book has things, and me and Brady have kind of talked about, there are things in the book that I really, really like. One thing I like in the show that the show does is it kind of follows the same characters throughout this different time period, like the Empire.
Yes.
And that's really cool, where it shows this time going forward, and the books cover hundreds of years.
Oh yeah, the books are hundreds of years,
and it's really hard to get invested in characters when you only know them for like 2 episodes, and now 100 years has passed, and I no longer care about those characters. And
Foundation's a good segue, I think.
I think the show did a good job with Foundation of, okay, yeah, it's way more time. All these characters are dead by the end of it, but we still need to get the audience excited about the story. So we're going to follow these characters and condense things down into their lifetime, or what seems like their lifetime, so we can now enjoy the story a little bit more. And I think that Rings of Power is doing something similar to that, which I'm okay with, again, because it makes me excited to know and to follow the storylines of these characters that I know are going to be dead by the end of this history. And why would I even be invested in it if they're not even going to be alive during the main conflict? But the fact that they're going to be conflict with these characters is exciting.
I mean, the thing about Rings of Power and the Lord of the Rings is that when the Rings of Power are made, the characters that they're affecting are literally immortal. So they're going to be there the entire time. Like, it doesn't matter if 1,000 years goes by, they're going to be there.
The elves are. I mean, the dwarves are not going to be there, and the humans are not going to be there. So two-thirds of your characters will not be there.
When it comes to the actual rings, the actual ones, like the elves make 19 of the 20. At least they should. Celebrimbor makes 19 of the 20 rings. He only doesn't make one. Okay. And all 19 are originally meant for the elves. Only later, Sauron kidnaps Celebrimbor, gets 16 rings, and then he gives them to the dwarves and to the men. The men were his last resort. Like, he had no plans. Based in the lore, he had no plans of giving any to men. He only wanted to control elves. That's it. Like, part of the reason why he only wanted to control elves is because elves don't die. Like if the only reason the wraiths are wraiths is because they're so old, like their lives have been stretched so thin, they don't have bodies anymore. They're literally like corporeal spirits. That's why they wear like the hoods and stuff. There's nothing underneath there besides like their spirit, because they're so old. But the ring has stretched their lives out so long that they'll never die.
Okay. I agree with everything except for I don't agree that just because the elves made all the rings that they were meant for elves. I mean, I think that from the beginning, the plan was to control all 3 of the groups in Middle Earth. And so that's why he gave some to the men. He gave whatever it was, 7 to the
to
seven
the
to
dwarves. So he
nine to
gives
10. So to me, it's like his goal was to control all of Middle Earth, and
so
he to the
his goal,
ruler.
yeah, his goal is to control Middle Earth. But when he's trying to gain power,
Yeah.
the elves are the rulers. The only notable
Mhm.
kingdom of men that existed
Well,
was Numenor, and they
yeah.
don't live on Middle Earth.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna hate the next episode, Brady. I can't wait. I literally cannot wait now until you watch the next episode, because what you just said gets ridden right off the rails in the next episode.
I'm
So
so
like,
excited for it.
I mean, I like, yeah, whatever. I know Celebrimbor makes all 19 rings just for elves. The whole point of the rings is to preserve their magic and to make the elves more powerful. That is the
The whole
whole
No,
point of
I
his
don't
whole
agree
point
with
of it.
you.
His
I
whole point of it was that, but you even told this earlier when you were explaining the history. Sauron was in disguise helping him make it.
Yep, totally. Yep. So he's lying to
Celebrimbor
Celebrimbor.
might have been,
He's
oh, I'm
lying to
making these for the
Celebrimbor.
elves, but Sauron's plan might have been like, who cares what
but
you think you're making them for? I'm having you make them so I can control the world, right? Like,
Right,
so
but he again, he never planned on giving them to the dwarves.
I
The
don't
only
agree with
reason
that. The dwarves were their own ruling class. They were not ruled by the elves.
they
And
don't care. They only care about treasure. That is it. Their
is
whole thing is
what we're
building treasure
talking
hoards.
about. Sauron's plan was to rule all of Middle Earth, which included the dwarves. I don't think you can say that the rings were made just for the elves. That nowhere does it say they were made just for the elves. His plan all along was to enslave the dwarves, men, and the elves,
in
like
fact,
all of Middle Earth.
In fact, I do think that there's a little poem that they say in Lord of the Rings where it says 3 for the elven lords, 7 for
Elven
the
kings,
dwarves
yeah,
for the halls of stone, and 9 for
yeah,
the race. So I'm pretty sure they do say in this
right.
poem that there was
Yeah.
each for
So
them.
here it is. It's here, rings of power. All right. It contract like so. Sauron distributed them to the dwarves and men after the elves turned against him. That's it. That's what it says.
Okay.
So he always planned. Let's see.
It doesn't say always plan to not to
You
give to the
can't.
elves.
You're making an assumption. You're making a leap.
It
You're
just says
making
he
a
gave
leap
it to
in
them
logic.
after they turned from him.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, you don't want these? That's fine. I didn't want to give them to you anyways, right? He might not have even known who he wanted to give them to. He just knew
You know
I
what?
have these 16 rings I'm gonna control the world with. Who's gonna be in the most who are gonna be the most beneficial people for me to give them to so I can control the world.
But here's the thing, Tyler. We're gonna find all that out in about 3 episodes.
That's true. It's very exciting. Very. So we've loved the show.
Yeah.
I
Did
love
Real quick.
Did you already?
I just have to cover it.
Okay. Go ahead.
This whole notion that the rings weren't meant for the elves. All right. So here's what it says. The song is misleading. All right.
who says this? According to who?
This is based on Quora.
So
It's a
reliable.
forum. The question is, did Sauron actually intend to give 9 rings to men and 7 rings to dwarves when the rings were forged? Who gave the rings to them?
But you just said it. You
That's the
just
question.
right. Read
So-
that sentence one more time.
Did Sauron actually intend to give 9 rings to men and 7 rings to dwarves when the rings were forged? That's the question.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the answer. In the Second Age, Sauron concocted the plan to forge the rings as a way of controlling the elves. He enlisted the elves themselves, especially Celebrimbor, in forging most of these rings, while going off and forging the one ring in secret. But
Right.
the elves, having wisdom and strength beyond that of mortal men, were not so easy to trap. When Sauron put on his own ring, the elvish ring bearers immediately perceived what was going on. They reacted by taking off their own rings and hiding them. Sauron, in a rage, attacked the elves and recovered as many rings as he could, never, however, recovering the 3 which were special. He got most of the rings back, only then did he redistribute them to kings and nobles among men and dwarfs, who readily accepted the gifts of the rings, finding them precious. The results were mixed. The rings given to dwarfs made them greedier and thus easier to corrupt, yet they did not become a race. But men proved far more susceptible to the rings' power than either elves and dwarves, and were fully enslaved by those rings.
Hey, when they use the word precious, was that in quotes?
That was in
And
quotes.
did they say it with a Gollum voice?
Yes. That's right.
We have what's his face on as a guest artist to actually read that whole thing.
I think we need
Sure.
to. We might need to get a couple more subscribers first.
Yeah.
But then I
Then
think
we'll
we can
invest. We'll invest.
Okay,
in them.
there's this website called Tolkien Gateway that goes over all the like this whole thing of the like all everything about why the rings were made.
And you know what?
we'll save that one. We'll save that one till we've seen episode 3 because now
Yeah,
we've got a good
that's
little
fine.
picture from Jeff of
Well, I'm going to go do some research now, and I'm going to find some counter websites
Please give me.
with as high a quality rating as Quora.
There we go. Do it.
Here's all I know. All I know is the great thing about this show is I can still really love the actual history that you might be saying, and I can equally love the show still, right? Like I can love both because I feel like the show hasn't taken away from the core part of the history so far. I don't think the show, everything you've told me and told us, I think at the core of the history, the show is sticking to it. And I think that's the most important part.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Again,
personally, that's how I feel.
Listen, the show can certainly like go up higher for me. Just so we're clear.
Well,
I can
obviously,
also go lower.
4.5
It can go
points. That's
lower.
a lot of room for growth. Have you guys talked about GOT yet?
Not yet. We haven't
We've not seen episode 4.
We haven't seen episode 4 yet.
What are you guys doing?
I know. Well, Alex has been working every night.
Okay.
So I think
Yeah, I'm
we'll watch
busy.
it. I'm really excited about that. So I think what we'll do, Jeff, if you want to join us on Wednesday, have another conversation about because by Wednesday I'll have watched Rings of Power and
House of the Dragon.
and House of Dragon.
Okay. I'll make a guest
Same.
appearance. I am going to send you over my theme song music that I want you to edit when I enter the show.
Yes.
Okay, but you can only do it if you're on camera.
No, I'm going to have a writer. I'm going to have a technical writer that you guys are going to have to fulfill. Then we'll talk about being on camera. I want you to deliver a bowl of green M&Ms.
I'll tell you what, we'll do that with the sponsor money you'll give us from Show Tips for You.
So basically, I'm just buying my own green M&Ms.
Speaking of our sponsorships, for all of your online ticketing needs, go to Showtix for You. That's
I haven't written your check yet.
Showtix for You.
.com.
It's Showtix, the number 4, the letter U.com. That's how you say it.
Yes.
To be clear, we have not been paid, but we are grifting really hard.
Yeah, really.
If you use our promo code, if you mention Rambling with Reeses, you get 0 discount. But you'll still love the service.
Yeah, you sure will. Thanks for that plug. And also, if you're in the market for a home out in North Carolina, you happen to be in Winston-Salem.
Yep.
You need to go talk to Tyler Reese of Reese Property Management.
Speaking of homes in North Carolina, a couple things. I set up we listed this home on Zillow that we're trying to rent, right? And didn't really get any inquiries. I put up a sign in front of the yard, like for rent, and I get at least 10 calls a day. At least. Now, of those 10 calls a day, 7, when I tell them what the price is, they're like, "Oh, that's out of my budget," which is crazy because my sign, I even wrote the price, right? I had someone come in today, actually. I showed them the home and they were really great. I was really excited. And I had already told them the price, which was really confusing, like on the phone. That's what's always confusing to me is when they call me, I tell them what the price is again. And then they say, "Okay, I still want to see it." Awesome. So I'm showing this lady this home. It's her and her dad. And we get to the 3rd room and she's like, "I love the home. I want it." So I'm currently in an apartment. It's just me and my son. We want more of our own space. I'm like, "This all sounds great. I love it." And she's like, "I do have a voucher. My current rent's about $900. I know this one's like $850." And I like pause. We're like, "Wait, the rent's $1,800, not $850." And she's like, "Oh." It's like you're welcome to still see the home and apply if you want, but it's 1,800. So
Oh, that's sad.
it was sad. Honestly, I felt kind of bad, but like I it's kind of crazy. Like if you look in our neighborhood of this home, it's really, really crazy to me actually how surprised people are when they hear some of the pricing. Because and I've said this to a couple of people. I'm like, honestly, if you can find another home that's equal to
Right.
ours for less, please take it. But like they're just not there. They're not there.
Yep.
But
That's crazy.
we showed it today to someone that I really hope she ends up renting. She was great.
She did not have a voucher.
She did not have a voucher. So
We're keeping our fingers crossed.
I think that, and Mike was talking about that a couple months ago because he like was watching or doing a course on buying rental properties, specifically Section 8 rental properties with vouchers. And I think it's a really great market and a really great thing to do. But in order to make it profitable, you really do have to buy the home basically for nothing.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Because
And put minimal money into it.
exactly, because the vouchers, I want to say the 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom voucher, I think is up to like 1,100, let's say. So let's say that your rent is 1,200, and that would be
Well,
for,
good luck finding a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom for 1,100.
Right.
yeah, so that's what I mean. So like,
Like-
so a 3-bed, 2-bath home that's renting for 1,200 is gonna not be super nice. Like, let's be honest. And so to find that home, to like buy that home, you need to be paying less than 120,000 all in, right? To make it even
Right.
worthwhile. And I mean, where do you find that?
Yeah, good luck.
Right?
Yeah.
That like a home for less than 120,000 that doesn't need significant work that's
Right.
gonna then put you over that amount. Because yeah, you can
Right.
find a home that's 70,000, right? But honestly, to get it up to the part where like it's gonna pass all these inspections, you might need to put in 70 more thousand. So now you're at 140.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
And then
It's
at that
crazy.
point, you're losing money on the
yeah. So I don't know. It's just kind of crazy right now,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. It's what it
That's
is.
crazy.
Well, yeah.
This has been
This has been a long episode.
This has been long. We talked a lot about this episode was basically all about the Rings of Power. We got a history lesson from Brady, our history teacher. Just for all of the people that did not know this, which everyone that ever listens to this does know this because they're family members. Brady does have a dream of becoming a history professor one day, maybe. Probably not, because I don't know if you'll ever go and get like a PhD in history.
I have to get my undergrad first.
That's true. I listened to I was listening to this book today, and it wasn't like my normal fantasy sci-fi. It was like a sales book. And I was listening to the book, and it really got me more interested in this is perfect that Jeff's here in the Lemonade Network and creating more content for kids to learn about more life skills. Because it really is true that so much of education now is more for people to be cogs in the machine and not to actually create and do exciting things. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it just really got me interested in thinking about that again because, and I just, that was a random tangent about Brady being a professor. It made me think about that, but
Yeah, maybe one day I'll teach Middle Earth history.
on the Lemonade Network, on our platform.
Exactly, yeah, on the
about-
Lemonade Network. Learn all about this fake world. This flat Earth that later becomes round.
You're so funny.
Well, this was fun. Until next time, this is yeah,
Still not sponsored by Showtix for you.
still not sponsored, but we've
Thanks
got
for having me though.
this was fun having you. I really enjoyed
Having a guest on here.
yeah, this is great. This is great. Okay, we will see you all later.